The secret of Hanok Tea House. The discovery. The scream that shattered the serene tea-scented silence echoed at exactly 3:33 p.m. Deep within Bukchon Hanok village, at the 300-year-old traditional Chongpung Tea House, renowned tea ceremony master Yoon Hye-jin, 65, was found dead beside her most cherished purple clay teacup. But this was no accident. Her hands were frozen in a pose as if she had stopped mid-motion while brewing her final cup of tea, and 4 teacups sat on the table. However, only 3 showed signs of having been used. Most peculiar was the tea she had brewed before her death. Instead of her usual oolong, it was tea made from toxic oleander leaves. Who and why? The final tea ceremony. Yoon Hye-jin had been hosting 3 special guests that afternoon for a tea ceremony. It was a private viewing of precious purple clay teapots to be featured in the next day's traditional tea auction. The scene spoke volumes. Of the 4 teacups, only 1 was completely empty, while the others contained varying amounts of tea. The tea leaf pouch on the table differed from those Yoon Hye-jin usually used. Someone had deliberately switched it. Even stranger was the fan placed in one corner of the tea room. It was Aunt Yoon Hye-jin's. An old folding fan lay half-opened with the Chinese characters Bogsu, revenge, was written upon it. The suspects. The 3 people present during that time each had suspicious elements. Professor Park, 62, a traditional culture researcher, trembled with a pale face. I was discussing ancient texts with Master Yoon when I excused myself to the restroom. When I returned, however, oleander leaf powder was found on his handbag sleeves, and a plant identification book was in his bag, with pages about toxic plants bookmarked. Mrs. Kim, 58, president of the tea ceremony club, dabbed her tears with a handkerchief. When I came out of the restroom, Hye-jin had collapsed. I quickly called 119. Yet in her handbag was a diary Yoon Hye-jin had written 30 years ago, containing explicit records of Mrs. Kim's husband's affair. Director Lee, 45, CEO of a traditional tea import company, answered calmly. We were discussing business when Master Yoon suddenly complained of a headache and went to brew tea. But his business card holder contained suspicious photos of tea farms in Taiwan, and his phone messages included threatening texts. If you cancel the contract, I'll expose the secret. Hidden truths. Digging deeper into each story revealed more secrets. In Professor Park's research office, evidence of plagiarism from Yoon Hye-jin's paper published 20 years ago was discovered. He had spent his lifetime tracking her academic theft. In his desk drawer was a note. Truth must always be revealed. Mrs. Kim's house yielded a shocking discovery. Newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. Famous tea master exposed in scandal with student's husband, leads to divorce. Mrs. Kim had been that student, and Yoon Hye-jin's exposure had ruined her life. Director Lee's office contained masses of fake certificates. He had been selling low-grade Chinese tea disguised as premium Taiwanese tea, and Yoon Hye-jin had evidence of this fraud. The contract included a clause, 5 billion won compensation if discovered. The tea room layout. The perpetrator cleverly used the traditional structure of the tea room. The Hanok's multiple doors allowed anyone to enter and exit secretly, and oleander could be easily obtained from the tea room garden. The folding fan's revenge character wasn't mere intimidation. It signaled the beginning of a revenge plot the perpetrator had long planned. The secret of the teacups. The 4th teacup, the empty one, explained everything. Yoon Hye-jin had been waiting for someone until the very end. That person never came, and instead she drank the oleander tea. But who prepared the poisoned tea and how? All 3 suspects left their seats at different times, and each had opportunities to touch the teacups. The final question. Professor Park was a scholar who had devoted his life to academic justice. To him, plagiarism would have been an unforgivable sin. Mrs. Kim harbored resentment built over 30 years. When the chance for revenge against Yoon Hye-jin, who had destroyed her marriage, presented itself, what choice did she make? Director Lee might have made an extreme choice to prevent massive business losses. The 5 billion won compensation could bankrupt his company. All 3 had perfect motives and opportunities. A scholar's sense of justice, a woman's jealousy, a businessman's interests. Which of them brewed the final tea in the 300-year-old tea house? The final cup. Throughout her life, Yoon Hye-jin met people through tea and learned many secrets in the process. But knowing secrets and keeping them were separate matters. That afternoon, in the quiet tea room, someone brewed the final tea, a revenge tea made with oleander leaves. So I ask you, in the 300-year-old Chongpung tea house, who tilted the final teacup? And whom was the fourth empty cup really meant for? Drop your guess in the comments before the credits, then rewatch the evidence and the suspect clips. Good detectives always look twice. The solution is hidden in the description.